You don't have to be an expert with any special discerning vision to readily witness the corruption once you are in court. The everyday injustices that go on to unsuspecting litigants will shock you. In order to deal with the obvious misalignment between litigants seeking justice and judges, a citizen reform process must be put in place. Participants in the courts are enjoiners of fiction and perpetrators of abuses, and we must all act on that as soon as possible. Americans for Legal Reform is organizing a process that our First Amendment right provides and that will support victims of courts' injustices. We ask that you participate and help with our efforts by emailing us at lisamac@americansforlegalreform.com. That's Lisa, Lisa, MAC for Mac, at Americans4legalreform.com. And we will be your watching eye. The program is entitled The Court Watchers, and I have with me two court watchers, Lisa Mckenzie on my left and Carl Lanzisera on her left. I get the left and right, mate? Okay, we did. Regarding changing what the court has done in the past, is that we now have an opportunity to put something in place to have us watch them or to keep track so that the abuses don't multiply and people and litigants are getting a fairer and fairer process. What's your opinion about the need for?
Well, I don't want to correct you, but it's not necessarily corruption. It may be just incompetence. Right. A judge, as well-educated lawyers that they might be, are not familiar with all the laws, and sometimes don't, say things, and they don't really refer to the law books. Sometimes they don't want to. A judge has a great deal of discretion and may not like the way you comb your hair, or might not like the fact that I'm bald and say or do something that is not the law. He has that discretion. So if you have court watchers in the courtroom, a lot of people I always say to people, bring court watchers with you. Oh, I have my lawyer. Your lawyer is not your advocate. Your lawyer takes an oath to uphold the Bar Association, the Law Association, the judges, the court procedures. You're last on the list. You're just paying the bill. So you must bring another set of eyes. You can't do it if you're a litigant.
Right.
You're too nervous, there's too many things on your mind, and you can't see the body language that goes on.
Right.
So we have advocated for now almost 30 years, bring more eyes with you. If you have to pay someone to watch, some people pay their own stenographer and bring their own stenographer, because the stenographer may make mistakes, and you're not.
The court stenographer may make mistakes, right?
And it's not corruption. No. It's people.
It's backup.
It's people, and you need these eyes there. We try to do it on a volunteer basis, and Lisa has been good enough to try and organize it so that people can get court watchers.
Lisa, you had talked to me once before about the equation that we talked about, the 5 sides things. What is it that? How do you describe that? What is that? 5 sides.
5 sides to every story. The defendants, the defendant's lawyer,
the 2 defendants, the 2 lawyers,
the 2 plaintiffs, the 2 lawyers, and the judge.
And the judge. Those are your 5 people. What is your feeling about why do you think we need a court watching process?
For me, it's keeping an eye on the judges and the attorneys to make sure they're doing their job. They're doing what they're paid to do. They're upholding the law, and they're not just playing golf with the judge.
Wouldn't they say to us as watchers, if you were watching, that, how are you going to know all the things in law? I mean, we barely know them as a judge and lawyer. What makes you think that you would be watching us? See, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because they think that's their domain, Carl. It's their domain.
It's their monopoly
Yes.
set,
Yeah.
and they're making the rules as they go along. At least the monopoly has got the same rules for the past 100 years, or whatever Parker made the rules. But in the courtroom, they make the rules as they go along, and they can. You're talking about judges and lawyers' camaraderie. When they go in the back room, we advocate never allow
Right.
the lawyers to go in the back room and conference everything on the record.
And-
Well,
and
a
that would
very
be why.
simple, a very
Yes.
simple thing is if the lawyer, I wouldn't say every, many judges have on their desk a computer printout of the donations that the lawyers make to the party. And if your lawyer made a bigger contribution to the party that the judge is part of, if he's a good judge, he'll say postponed, and the lawyer makes another $1,000 because you got to come back.
Right.
So you need
But
another.
you're a loser in any way. The litigant gets to lose that money.
If there is this, when they go in the back room, the first thing the lawyer says is, "Have you been over to the country club?" Which means that's where the judge had his fundraiser, and I bought tickets at $1,000. So that's language for I made a contribution.
So you get to win the case.
Well, it doesn't necessarily win, but even a postponement is costing you money.
That's
So
why court
you
watch is so
need
important.
So a court watcher does what, Lisa?
you need everything
Knows.
on the record, and you need eyes and ears. In the old days, before television, everybody in town came to a trial, and it was the entertainment. They didn't have movies, and it was the entertainment for hanging was a big deal. So, but at least the judge had everybody watching them. Now, no one's in the courtroom. The judge can do whatever they want. They even throw you out. We court watch a great deal, and many times they throw us out. They can't do that. Every courtroom is open. They can't legally do it. Every courtroom is open legally unless there's child molestation. So bring as many people as you can with a pen and pencil and write it down. Write what they see. Even write down a note to your mother, whatever it is. Make the judge think they're recording what's going on. And you'll see a different tone in the courtroom.
Lisa, you think this is important? I mean, don't you? I mean, litigants get abused in the court, and the judges, they don't necessarily know everything that's going on around them, and they may make themselves look like they're in charge of things, but when they have a problem, what do? They hire a forensic. There's a certain order, I think, that would help all us court watchers to know is when they call in for a forensic, is it a reasonable call?
Right.
You know, we're not going to know all that.
No, really all you need to do to be a court watcher is show up, like Carl said. Show up with a notepad. We will have a form that we'll have specifically made. We'll have, information for the defendant. We'll have information for the plaintiff. We just want you to write down, who the players are and the names and, what you see going on.
And if you see, an impropriety of something, right?
Right. Who the law guardian is, if there's a law guardian. Who the forensic is. Why is there a forensic? For what reason?
Yeah, that was another thing. If you're making a determination to find out whether like a forensic, whether it needs to be called in or not, is that a value judgment we're making on the spot? How can
It's
we
an
know?
extra paycheck. It's just an extra paycheck. I think it's a very wasteful entity in the court system. And sometimes I think the law guardian is just a wasteful entity in the court. I think the judge needs to do his job a little bit more
And we could
and
know
be a little bit more competent.
Yeah, we could know as court watchers whether there's a connection between the forensic that's being used with the judge or not. Too.
Yes, that's a pattern I want to establish.
You want to do that in your form, right?
Yes.
The form that you're going to create. You
Yes.
want to create patterns and establish
Well,
patterns.
you want to observe everything. I'm a chemist by school, by training, and you observe all the chemistry, all the chemicals in a solution and their effect on the situation. Same thing in the courtroom. Everybody comes into the courtroom. What relationship. I've seen where the judge and one of the lawyers are on the same board for a charity. What relationships? Do your homework. Are they all Democrats? Are they all Republicans? Are they all independents? Have they any business relationships? And they can do that, but you want to be aware of it, and you want to let the court know that you were aware of it.
Don't you think this would help us? I mean, if we were trying to see how effective a court system would be, to keep a statistical,
Yes.
compilation of.
Well, we could go nuts, but
I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But with the cases that we will court watch, that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to
You're going to
see
eventually be able to.
the-
You can't do it right away. You'll eventually be able to compilate statistical
Right.
information.
It's you're a litigant, whether the defendant or the plaintiff. You better know what's going on in your case and analyze everything. All the people, Google them. Nowadays, check
Can't hurt.
Nobody knows your case better than you do.
Everything.
Can't hurt.
Where do they live? Who do they hang out with? Who do they associate with?
And who's the highest contributor to their campaign fund?
Right.
All the campaign.
That's important.
All campaign donations, more than $25, are kept on the computer now. Used to have to be went to Albany, but now it's on a computer. Find out everything.
You mean by chasing down a judge's record, you can see who donated and by how much?
Absolutely.
Yes, on the computer, you can look that up.
It doesn't stop the
What's the source for that? Do you have the information on how to reach that in case?
campaign contributions. The
You
judge.
have the judge on the line.
I don't have it
Yeah.
even. We can put it on our website,
We
Americans
should
for Legal
probably
Reform.
put that on the website. Yeah.
The point being, it doesn't stop the case, but you want to be aware of it, and you might want to call the court's attention to it. Let the record reflect that this lawyer donated $5,000 to the Republican Party, and the judge is a Republican, or whatever it might be.
Who's going to say that during a trial?
You make sure your lawyer says it.
Okay.
If you have a lawyer, and
You're pro se?
and if you're pro se, then you say
You
it.
can do it on your own.
You can do it on your own.
Yeah.
You might want to be pro se. You might want to learn how the court runs
Right.
and do it yourself.
Not so easy.
And
I
if
mean,
you're pro se, you really need to learn how to find a court watcher and learn about court watching.
this is something
more
we
than
can
ever.
do too, because the pro se litigant is really left for
Well,
fodder for the court.
The point
they
is,
are.
Chris, that if you make apple pie, how do you watch television and you watch them make apple pie? If you play golf, you watch television and you watch a golf game, and maybe you'll get some ideas.
You want a good education, you watch this program.
And if you
Right.
want to learn about courts, go court watch for other people. Just walk through the courthouse and walk into courtrooms and watch what goes on. I was in the courtroom, and the woman said, "He beat me," and the husband from the back of the room stands up and yells out, "She can't prove it." Well, he just admitted to the judge that he did it. So you can learn by mistakes, and you can learn by good strategy. There are many good lawyers, and if you get you're in a courtroom with a good lawyer, learn what the questions are.
So now we're going to call ourselves on to looking at some of the qualifications as a court watcher, because this is going to be one of our forms that we're going to put onto the website as Americans for Legal Reform.
A pencil and a paper. That's the
Okay,
qualification.
that, believe it or not, that wasn't on my list
That
here.
is.
Okay. We also want to make sure that if they're Americans for Legal Reform, that they're a dues-paying member. Am I
Yes,
correct?
you have to be, because the law says you can't do what a lawyer does unless you're a member of an organization.
We have to be a neutral party to the action.
No.
I mean, a court watcher should be.
No.
No?
No, you just have to observe what's going on, that's all.
Well, that's part of being a neutral.
Well, I mean, you can be completely prejudiced if you want. It doesn't make any
I guess when it
difference.
comes to clerical stuff, it doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah, you're
Right.
just writing and taking
Well,
notes.
what Lisa was referring to when we spoke about this one subject about a neutral party, we didn't want a family member, coming in and taking.
Yeah.
Okay, but we got that. All right.
If you do have a family member, don't admit it.
We must be ready to at least attempt to be there in court when called upon. So, as members of Americans for Legal Reform, we have to be ready to attempt to be there in court. You have to be there.
Sometimes you have to be ready on a day's notice, 2 days' notice, because sometimes these, quote unquote, emergency hearings or emergency appearances,
Right.
are called in by the attorneys and even the judges or even the law clerks. So you have to be ready sometimes.
We may have to try to figure out a way to compensate somebody who's troubled by getting in there. I mean, that's something we talked about once before, right?
Right.
I mean, somebody who has a struggle to get to the court to do his job as a court watcher may encumber some.
It's cheaper than a movie.
Yeah.
It's more entertaining.
More entertaining at times.
Than a movie.
Yeah.
And you learn something, especially if you're a future litigant. You can learn how to defend yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Learn from the mistakes and learn from the good strategies. In fact, if you're before a certain judge, it would be a good idea to go court watch for people in that same courtroom.
Well, we're needing a form. So you're going to try and dig up a form.
We're going to put that form together on the website this week.
Okay. And some of these things we just talked about now are going to be on this form.
Yes.
What about the type of person we're looking for? We're looking for somebody, of course, that's sane and able to discern differences, but somebody can fill out the form.
Sit down, fill out the form. Maybe a retiree. They might be.
Who might be better
best.
to be a subject for this would be a
Right.
retiree.
More
or somebody.
Because of
flexible.
the time constraints,
Right.
might be better.
Okay, and a member of Americans for Legal Reform, of course, a dues-paying member. What else? What other qualifying should we consider as part of the form that we're going to present to the public? You need to be able to fill out a form and make a conscious report. What about a report back to Americans for Legal Reform on what transpired?
Well, if you see something, say something is the obvious thing. Don't be afraid. Some people are afraid, intimidated. They're afraid for their own. I mean, I've been in court where one of the advocates are mafia connected and been threatened. So you want a person that can't be intimidated that easy. I mean, I've been threatened on several occasions.
You're talking about someone getting the report back to us.
Yeah.
They can once they email me, I can email them, my fax number. They can electronically email it back to us. Stop into our office.
So you're going to
come to our
compilate
meetings.
these statistical information you're getting back on these reports that these court watchers are bringing to you, right?
Well, we
Yes.
report it to people, and sometimes,
And we can put it in our newsletter.
in the newsletter and newspapers, what's going on. Now, I just today met with a lady that's in probate court in Riverhead. The judge comes one day. They've been in court every month for the past year and have never seen the judge. And they were told they better take this offer or the judge is going to make
And meanwhile, they don't know anything about it.
how
crazy.
could they say
He
anybody?
shows up one day a week.
He shows up one day a week and never on the day that they're
The
there.
people should know that this goes on. This is a real event, right? I mean, this happens.
Probate court was just written up in Newsday, many stories about what goes on over there with the Ohika Castle people, and their probate court, they give appointments out, and there's a lot of money handed to people, and some of it gets shuffled around.
Right.
So the reason that nobody is there is because they don't want to be caught on the record doing something incompetent.
What about the possibility of tying in the stats you talked about reaching on? I forgot the name of you didn't actually give us the name of the website. Not our website. I mean the judge's website. You can get their information as to what their records are, right?
Yes, we'll add that.
Judge's accountability, stuff like that.
Getting the campaign funds.
Okay, so then you're going to take our report that we're getting as Americans for Legal Reform reporting on the court watching and tie it in with, I'm thinking out loud here, but you can probably come up with a profile easier by being physically there and adding to the judge's record already what we now experienced with the judge.
Yeah, I like that idea.
A dated experience, right? You like that
Yeah,
idea?
I do.
think that works too. Okay, in our last minute, is there anything else that you can want to tie into the report? Because we're done with our analysis you form. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get a chance to read your thing.
No, that's okay.
What was it? I forgot.
It's just a little, just a little definition of what I think is
Oh, yeah, okay, please do. Yeah,
ties
okay.
into what court watching is all about.
Please read it, Lisa. Thank you.
What we are. Crime reduction advocates, retirees, and other concerned citizens are among the many who believe our courts should be monitored by the public, like we just discussed. Toward that end, they have formed court watching groups that sit on court cases to observe judges' behavior and courtroom procedures, most importantly. Sometimes it often lasts a month at a time, and then we compile our findings and we'll translate them into recommendations for reform.
That's our basic definition for what we had, or
Yes.
you came up with something. Okay, so as a court watcher, we're going to be responsible to get a fair, adding to what you're saying, try to get a fair assessment of whether a judge, or a lawyer for that matter, we didn't talk about that, but the lawyers too, and conduct-wise, tie in what we can determine from their record and from what we report on visually.
Yeah.
Makes
Makes
sense, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, that's a winner.
It's all about transparency.
Yeah. You shine the light, as they say, right?
Right. That's why your mother hung the laundry outside. The sunshine made it pure.
Good thought, thanks. Thank you, Lisa Mckenzie and Carl Lanzisera. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. Of course, we always invite all opposing views. My name is Chris DiMaggio, and thank you for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.